Elizabeth Holmes was finally in prison after being found guilty of lying about the blood testing capabilities her company was developing and collecting nearly $1 billion in financing based on those false promises. In 2004, she had dropped out of Stanford to launch Theranos, her startup company dedicated to building a machine that could take a single drop of blood from someone and then immediately return a comprehensive diagnosis of that patient's full condition, including any and all signs of terminal disease. This was a complete game changer in medicine and technology, and placed her front and center stage at TED Talks and on panels with venture capitalists, world leaders, and Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. In 2013, Theranos signed a deal with the Walgreens pharmacy chain, where the blood testing devices went live at retail locations in Arizona and California. There was only one problem though. The technology didn't actually exist. In other words, the Theranos machines had never worked. This was a total scam from the very beginning. And the craziest part about this whole saga is the fact that they actually managed to get away with this for well over a decade. Technicians and engineers at Theranos were all trained to manipulate the blood test results in favor of demonstrating that the devices were working even when they obviously weren't working. When Joe Biden was still vice president, he visited the headquarters in Northern California. They took him into a laboratory with entire rows of the blood testing stations. Except it was all fake. It was a mock laboratory with machines that were set up just to look functional for this one-time visit. But none of them were devices that could be released for real blood examinations because they didn't have any such devices anywhere in the building. And the testing for all those Walgreens patients from Arizona and California, Theranos' results were so inconsistent and unreliable that they had to order and ship in third-party systems to run those blood samples. In other words, they had to use traditional existing technology from other companies to get their job done. In 2016, the CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, conducted an audit of the Theranos headquarters and found absolutely zero quality control inside their laboratories, posing an immediate jeopardy to patient health. It was so bad that they banned Elizabeth Holmes from being able to operate a lab for at least 2 more years. On top of that, John Carreiro of the Wall Street Journal had been investigating Theranos for a few years, so he was already in the process of exposing all of the company's criminal practices. All the investments and all the partnerships would start to fall apart one by one, including that deal with Walgreens. And even though the company knowingly and intentionally put the health and lives of potentially millions of patients at risk, the Attorney General's office didn't really care about all that. The prosecutors only got involved due to one crime. And that crime was a crime of cheating and trying to steal from other wealthy people. In June of 2018, Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani, the other top executive at Theranos, were indicted on federal charges of fraud and conspiracy. Their trials would take over 4 years before each being convicted and sentenced to 11 and 13 years in prison, respectively. After multiple attempts to delay the start of her sentence were all denied, in May of 2023, Elizabeth Holmes surrendered herself to the women's facility in Bryan, Texas, where she began serving her prison term.